What's up? Long awaited discussion. I have Red Star Caucus's candidate for NPC co-chair. Basically the one. How many NPC co-chairs are there, Megan?
There are two. There are two. And this is the first time in over a decade that they've existed, though they are written into DSA's constitution, as I understand it.
Okay. So yeah, we have Comrade Megan here, Comrade Megan Romer from Red Star, and she's racking up the endorsements. She already has an endorsement from the Libertarian Socialist Caucus, and my understanding of this whole caucus scene was that like, aren't you guys seen as being like the tanky caucus or something? So
That's what I'm told. Yeah, yeah. Big tanky here. I'm a round middle-aged woman, but yes, big tanky. I don't know if I could fit in a tank, but yeah,
oh,
that's what they tell me. That's what they tell me.
oh. So you
Hey,
know,
there's not a mark of shame.
no,
Just,
it is not.
we'll talk
Um,
about jam here in a minute. And
yeah. So announcement yesterday.
yep.
Yesterday. And besides serving on the NPC, Megan has been in both local and national DSA leadership as former co-chair of DSA Southwest Louisiana and DSA Mutual Aid. As a professional in political media and with experience in parliamentary procedure, her leadership as co-chair will be key. You basically have a whole slate of people here. You have Fern from North New Jersey, Sanwal
Mhm.
Yousaf from Philly, Matt Nelson from the East Bay, the home of the Black Panther Party, and
Mhm.
Sean Bridge from North Kentucky and Cincinnati. So a pretty admirable and formidable slate. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I can explain it a little bit if that helps. So the co-chairs are um it's a sort of recreated position. It used to exist. People who have been co-chairs in the past include I believe Cornell West, Barbara Ehrenreich, Michael Harrington himself. Um, and largely the co-chairs historically were tasked with external facing work of the org. So doing media appearances, giving speeches, appearing at various conferences. And the new iteration thereof will combine some of that, but also with just sort of full time organizing, working with chapters, trying to help them get off the ground, working with national working groups, doing interfacing with union leadership, other big orgs, and yeah, all kinds of stuff like that. The Democracy Commission is what those other comrades you listed. They are running for something called the Democracy Commission. That is a 2-year position. It's basically a working group that has been tasked with digging into the structure of DSA and figuring out what it could look like using parties and organizations from all around the world as inspiration. So they're going to dig into like the bylaws of all sorts of other parties, see what they're doing, see how they deal with, leadership and middle layer of leadership and parliamentary procedure and grievances and all sorts of things. So um that's pretty exciting, and I think it's really cool that we have the slate that we've put up for Democracy Commission includes two comrades who are from other countries. Sanwal is from Pakistan and Fern is from Brazil,
Okay.
and they both have experience in left movements in their home countries. And then we also have Matt, who is an experienced Title IX officer, if I have that right, and has background in sort of grievance work in I think mostly in the educational sphere, but also NGOs. And so kind of brings that's been a real sort of difficult thing for DSA to figure out how we're going to deal with grievances. And so I think Matt having that specific experience will make a big difference. And then also Sean, who is a YDSA member. So she is a younger comrade who's coming out of the sort of really looking at like youth organizing movements. And so yeah, I think it's a good a fearsome foursome. I'm looking forward to seeing them all get elected and seeing what they do.
A gang of four, if you will. Well,
Yes, exactly.
actually a gang of five with you included.
That's true.
So just delving a bit into the points of unity of Red Star. Um,
Yeah.
so we are revolutionary Marxists. We understand Marxism as a living, breathing theoretical framework, which is not and never can be a static set of dogmas. We see Marxism as the foundational and most informative lens through which to understand the workings of capitalism, a task which is paramount in our efforts to dismantle it. I like it already because, like, the comrade Christian from Chicago that I had on the other night was like, Marxists make mistakes because we tend to see our ideology as a substitute for religion. Like we like we never think that we can say that, oh, Mao was wrong about this. Like, no, Mao was wrong about many things, especially in the later part of his life. Like, no, he should not have provided support to the enemies of the MPLA. He should not have cut off aid to the Filipino revolutionaries so that he could be friends with Ferdinand and Imelda Marcos. So we have to acknowledge that as much as we admire and learn from our revolutionary leadership, our historical revolutionary leadership, like we have to admit on many instances that they were wrong and we should lie about this. So I like this. It's not and never can be a static set of dogmas.
Yeah, a thing that I really like, there's a a Chilean Marxist, Marta Hardaker, whose books I really like.
Mm-hmm.
And she talks a lot about she talks a lot about various movements and theories, but she brings in quotes from everybody, up to and including like Trotsky and and
Mm,
people who I maybe wouldn't necessarily. But it's interesting to think like, okay, so not only can we say that everything the guy we like did was good, because that's not true, but everything the guy we don't like, it's possible he had a point here or there, or a good turn of phrase, or some useful thing. Um,
yeah, like
so yeah, it's about
even
yeah,
even Stalin and Trotsky, who like left wing tradition tells us were like mortal enemies. I mean, Stalin did have Trotsky murdered after all, but like it's funny, like Stalin's bookshelf, one of the most annotated and underlined books was Trotsky's Terrorism and Communism. So
interesting. I didn't
yeah,
know that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we it's definitely important that we pull from all theoretical traditions that had as their ultimate goal the creation of the type of society that we want, a moneyless, classless, stateless society. And yeah, in most instances, especially in the imperial core, these efforts failed, unfortunately. Well, in many cases, fortunately. But because like especially like if you look at the new communist movement, if you read some of their stuff from the 70s and the 80s, like, yeah, no, hell no, we don't want these people in power. But like it's important, like because a broken clock can be right. Well, it is right twice a day.
That's right. That's right.
Second point, we believe in the creative historical power of revolution. A capitalist society will not be reformed into a socialist one, just as capitalism itself was not born through welcome reform to the former feudal order. Popular legislature and politicians with benevolent intentions can help create more favorable conditions for change, but these things alone cannot bring the revolutionary overhaul we seek, a complete upheaval of the present economic system that extracts value from the many for the private profit of the few. So this is really important because like the a lot of anarchists and my tendency Maoists, like they say that DSA is inherently reformist or stupid shit like that. But here we have a DSA caucus, a group of people that is organized within DSA, all DSA members literally saying the opposite. A capitalist society will not be reformed into a socialist one, just as capitalism itself was not born through welcomed reforms to the former feudal order, to the former feudal order. So, like, I see no deviation from Marxism here. So, again, no investigation, no right to speak, right?
We're also not the only revolutionary socialists in DSA. There, I think Mug is revolutionary socialists.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the Trotskyist caucuses consider themselves revolutionary socialists. Like there's a definitely a I do not think that it's definitely a strong plurality opinion at any rate
Yeah.
that there's no, you can't reform your way to socialism, that at some point there has to be a hard break.
Yeah.
um
And what a lot of people do, like people, like I've been telling people since I've joined and even before I've joined, like you have to investigate. Like I guarantee you that all of these people saying these things have not talked to one single DSA member or been to one single DSA event. Like just from going to STL socials, like
mhm.
that put the lie to that crap. Like people think that DSA is nothing but a bunch of electoral flunkies. Like, yeah, we have people who have been elected to political office, but like that's not all we do.
Mhm.
As a matter of
And
fact,
it's also, I mean,
that's not even
yeah,
most of what we do.
yeah, no, I mean, literally, it can't be most of what we do. We're a 501(c)(4). We are still governed under U.S. law, and we can't do mostly electoral. It's against the law. We have to do mostly. I forget how they phrase it, but it has to be benefiting society in some way. And
Mm.
God knows, no election has ever benefited society.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think, uh, yeah, there's a lot to it. I mean, but even elections, it's like we can agree, like, yeah, let's run elections. We may have different reasons for running them. I think elections can be a powerful way to sort of get people into organizing, get people to kind of get your brand out there, for lack of a better term, and to sort of grow the movement in a very specific way with very clear asks, in a way that most US Americans who identify politics exclusively with elections can make sense of. They get it. They get what running an election means.
Mm.
Um, and then you get them in, and then you turn them into revolutionaries. It's fun. It's a fun little cycle.
Yeah. So third point, socialism means a workers' state. That's that's important because the Libertarian Socialist Caucus endorsed you. Basically the closest to an anarchist caucus that we have.
Yes.
And so we have left unity in practice here. So
Yeah.
socialism means a workers' state. We believe in the necessity of building towards a state that is comprised of and exists exclusively for the benefit of the working class. So a dictatorship of the proletariat in Marxist jargon. Such an
Mhm.
institution is the most authentic expression of workers' power and is the only body that can ensure the well being of all people. A democratically planned economy is a primary component of this expression of the will of the working class and is necessary for projects ranging from reparations. I really love that you mentioned reparations because the struggle of the new African people for reparations is something that is sorely under discussed and under theorized on the left, um,
Mhm.
to preventing the impending ecological catastrophe of climate change. This is also extremely important because people don't understand that like this is an existential threat. This is not just something that we can just hand wave away. Oh, this is something that we can like. Even if we establish socialism tomorrow, we will still have to live with the inevitability of the mess that the bourgeoisie has made since the Industrial Revolution, coming back to bite us in the ass. Um, Decentralization of the functions of the state essentially precludes the possibility of such coordinated planning and weakens the ability of the working class to respond in periods of reaction. So this is dope. Like this is um this is this is some basic Marxism. Like
Mhm.
this demonstrates a very good grasp of the Marxist Leninist, dare I say Maoist understanding of the state. And I say Maoist because you mentioned a democratically planned economy. Like when people talk about socialist economic planning, they think that it's just some commissar sitting in whatever the hell we rename Washington D.C. Telling you like, comrade, you must produce 500 million tons of grain, otherwise you will be shot. And like, no, like if you study China during the Maoist period, like um, the main intent and purpose of the Cultural Revolution was to get rid of um, get rid of bureaucrats and cadres who were basically riding roughshod over the masses of people, right? And they did not allow the working class to run the state. They basically saw themselves as a Soviet style new ruling class. So, a popular slogan during the Cultural Revolution was, "Where are our cadres' hammers?" Meaning, everybody has to participate in production and everybody has to participate in the planning of the economy and the organization of the state and the exercising of state functions. So I really like this. Um,
I'm glad I get that. That was a very in-depth analysis there. I'm like, yeah, that sounds good.
I'm a nerd. I'm sorry.
Great job.
I'm a nerd. I'm sorry. I read too much.
It's
Um,
okay. It's all right.
so this is interesting because
Didn't Mao have something to say about reading too many books when there's someone there?
yeah, and then he had a whole. He literally had his bed constructed so that he could lay on one side and have a book. Like he basically had a desk built into his bed. Mao was a hypocrite
That
on that
rules
one.
so hard. I want Mao's desk bed. I'm gonna look this up and see if I can get it made. That's
Me,
incredible.
me too. So this is interesting because coming from the Maoist milieu, a lot of Maoists consider intersectionality to be bourgeois, like they consider it to be
Yeah,
postmodern bourgeois
yeah.
academic nonsense. But
Yeah, we got dragged for it a bit on Twitter. I noticed around convention because we posted it in we had like a 5 point platform, just largely a simplification of these points of unity, and and people were mad about the intersectional thing, and that's fine. They can be mad.
if it's one
Go ahead.
thing, if it's one thing that Marxists are good at, it's being mad. So our analysis is intersectional. Our goal of building socialism and our goal of the destruction of all forms of oppression are intrinsically linked. We understand that any analysis of class is inherently also an analysis of gender, race, sexuality, and all of the vectors through which oppression operates, and that the reverse is also true. We reject attempts at analysis that discard or flatten these factors rather than treating them as real material conditions of life under capitalism. We recognize, among others, that struggles against homophobia, sexism, transphobia, racism, and ableism as requiring additional and unique analysis and tactics when building power and shaping a new society we wish to see in the world. Civil society's prejudices are uniquely shaped by capitalism, but capitalism is not the only social order that features them, and we must remain vigilant in assessing and combating reactionary habits even as we gain power. So this sounds like a call for cultural revolution. Maybe you comrades are Maoists after all. But
I
I,
want to get the t-shirt, the not a Maoist t-shirt. It's they're gonna really start suspecting me. Yeah, I mean, I think just the way we see it is that you know, various isms do contribute to material realities, right? Like we
mm-hmm,
know this. And so you can't be a materialist and like pretend racism doesn't exist or something because it like
yeah,
visibly does. People make less money when they're black, right? Like just things like obvious things.
yeah,
um uh Palestinian mothers are they're the mothers of young people, whereas Israeli mothers are the mothers of babies and children, right? Like just endless microaggressions and macroaggressions.
exactly.
Those are material realities. So it's not, so if people want to be like, oh, that's bourgeois, like, okay, well, I mean,
And
explain why the material realities of
yeah,
the wage gap then.
and like intersectionality was not developed by the bourgeoisie, even though in many instances the bourgeoisie uses intersectional language. For example, we have the notorious example of pinkwashing that Israel is doing. We have them trying to recruit trans comrades to join the CIA, stupid shit like that.
Yep.
But characterizing outliers as representative of the whole ideology and the whole practice of intersectionality is it's willful obfuscation, because like when you look at who developed intersectionality, like these women, these black women, these Latina women had come through organizations that were basically shot through with male chauvinism. The Black Panther Party, the Young Lords, the Brown Berets, never mind the various new left communes and organizations
Mm-hmm.
that ended up collapsing. Like these organizations were deeply, deeply misogynist. For example, you had a Black Panther Party representative get up on the stage at the 1969 SDS conference shouting about pussy power and ridiculous shit like that. But this was supposed to be the vanguard of the revolution. So there was definite theoretical work of this type that needed to be done.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, and I
Good.
don't think the bourgeois class would use it against us if it wasn't a material reality, right? Just like very simply, like they wouldn't be pinkwashing if there wasn't a material benefit to it. Um,
Yeah.
so
Um, Next point, we are anti-imperialists and internationalists. Wars launched by the ruling class do nothing but pit workers against each other, all while making the world more dangerous, dictatorial, and chaotic. As socialists in the US, we have not only a unique responsibility, but also a unique position from which to oppose all US imperial interventions abroad and the broader agenda of imperial statecraft. We see no benefit in levying public criticism of states or movements that are opposed to US empire, as such critique in effect serves no purpose except to create consent for empire. Like, I used to be one of those Maoists that used to be like, oh yeah, fuck China. Cuba was a sugar plantation for the Soviets. And then as I
mhm.
got older and I talked to more people, like I talked to people, elders who had actually been to Cuba, he was like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, do these countries have problems? Yeah, but does it behoove us as citizens of the world's number one imperialist superpower to dedicate much ink and much time to talking about the revisionist political economy of Cuba? No. Like, if we
Yeah.
know that, that's fine. But the primary contradiction, like the major thing, is the fact that this country is continuing to strangle Cuba to death, or trying to strangle Cuba to death with an embargo and sanctions. Same thing with China. The the road that China takes is ultimately up to its people, as Mao said. Mao said that if China reverts back to capitalism and imperialism, then the people of China have as their responsibility to change it back. But us in the United States, our main goal is to stop this whole Cold War situation that the United States keeps trying to cook up. Like, I've never heard of Chinese ships hanging around off the coast of Los Angeles, or or just chilling out by Alaska. Whereas we have this country and several others, Iran, for example, just ringed with bases. We have
Mhm.
ships. We have ships in still in international waters, but occasionally they trespass. We have jets that are flying up there, buzzing Chinese aircraft. Like, that's how wars start.
Yep. And I think that this is a good example of like where kind of big tentism it can actually sort of thread that needle of big tentism. Like, I think Cuba's cool as hell. Like,
I
I
do
love
too.
so like, and but I think it's fine if people want to have critiques of Cuba because what matters and what we agree on is that it doesn't really matter what I think about Cuba.
Yeah.
What I think about Cuba is completely irrelevant. I am a U.S. citizen. My job, my only job, the only thing I can do is to critique my country's embargo on that country, and um yeah, and so that's where and I think, we see that very much playing out in real time with the Israel's war on Gaza right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um like, who are you condemning? Have we listed who all we're condemning yet today? Like, I fucking condemn the US war machine. That's who I condemn. And if you want me to condemn anybody else, you're gonna have to wait because that's you're gonna have to wait until they listen to me because they don't have to listen to me right now.
Yeah.
And who does is the US war machine. That's
Yeah.
it.
Like that. Like, that's what I said. Like, condemning is like, what's the point? Like, these people are trying
Who
to
gives a
serve.
shit?
Yeah, these people are trying to survive. Like, do we think that condemning the H group? Oh, oh my God, they've condemned us. We have to stop. We have to just stop and let our people be massacred now.
Yeah.
We,
Yeah. Megan Romer said that she condemns us. You guys, back off.
there's a really cool cartoon. It's like, I guess it's like this resistance movement, and Comrade, the Socialist Workers Party, has extended their support in the pages of their newspaper. And the leader guy was like, exactly the moment I've been waiting for. Comrades, to the attack. But yeah, like, it's just
Exactly. It is very silly. It is a very silly thing to do. And the only reason to do it is to sort of placate people who are unplacatable, if that's a word.
yeah.
Uh, they don't care. You're yeah, it's their rule of ruin. So so there's nothing you can say that's gonna soften the blow for them
Nope.
quite at all.
So you might as well just go full force.
Just say what you're gonna say with your whole
Yeah.
chest.
We can't get to socialism with the capitalist parties. Our analysis of capitalism and its relationship to the state extends to its two state-sanctioned political parties as well. Keep in mind, me and you, Megan, we're supposed to be like mindless shills of the Democratic Party, but
So
from
I've been
your
told.
yeah, but from your caucus's line, this says we recognize that the Democratic Party is loyal first and foremost to its donors, consultants, and relationships with capitalists. Working with bourgeois parties on their own terms misleads the working class by positioning such parties as potential vessels for working class power, whereas in actuality, their nature as organs of the capitalist class firmly stymies any revolutionary potential. Therefore, we generally oppose efforts to take over or work within any capitalist political party and advocate using their ballot lines in elections only as a matter of strategy, not principle. So people keep asking, like, why do Cory Bush? Why does AOC? Why do all of our electeds? Why do they run as Democrats? Like, because that's basically the only way to get elected, right? Like, if we're
Yeah, I mean,
serious,
most voters aren't actually paying attention to fucking anything, and they
yeah,
push the button based on a letter. Um,
yeah, and
so
like,
until we politicize the entire working class, which we should do, it's hard. That's a long road, but that's one that we need to be on. But until then, yeah, sorry, it's a stupid branding exercise, and I hate it, but it is the reality.
yeah, like PSL. I have very very dear comrades in PSL, but right here in my hometown. But like PSL runs somebody for president every 4 years. Like I made a tweet the other day stating that I am not voting for anybody for president in 2024, and neither should you. But they're like, what about Claudia de la Cruz? What about so and so? What about so and so? People that I've never even heard of. I'm like, first of all, these people are never going to win. Second of all, what part of I am not voting for president in 2024 do you not understand? Like PSL, I think they ran their presidential candidate in 20. I think Kanye West got more votes in Tennessee than their party did. So
Yeah,
like,
they've been running Gloria La Riva for a long time, right? They've run,
yeah,
but they run. I do like that they ran as her vice president, Leonard Peltier, who I don't remember if I ever actually voted for them, but I always liked that that's who they ran as their VP because Leonard rules and should be freed immediately.
immediately. The first and only presidential vote that I cast was in 2012 for Obama, and then 2 years later he decided to send soldiers to Ferguson. So fuck that vote. Um, and this sort of segues into your next point. We need a workers' party. A workers' party is a democratic organization of, by, and for the entire working class that formulates strategy and tactics and contests power across multiple arenas of struggle. That's Bolshevik shit. Like, if you went up to Lenin saying that we cannot use elections, we cannot use military power, like, Lenin would probably be like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Like, no, we
Yeah,
have
I'm
to,
pretty sure this comes straight out of Stain Rev. Like I
yeah,
don't think we didn't invent this. This is definitely a yeah. I
mhm.
mean, you have to contest on every battlefield, right? Every arena, labor, housing, electoral, all those things. You can't. It is a major deviation to ignore any one of them.
Yeah, left deviation. Or right. Like if you ignore
Or
the
right, depends on which one you're
yeah,
ignoring.
like ignoring the necessity to build power for the people with the people. Like that would be a left deviation. That would be like the pighead people from Austin who think that right if you write "Long Live President de Gonzalo" on a wall uh, so many times, then it's like a magic charm. Then he's going to come back and lead the working class. Same time, if you consider electoral politics the only strategy, then you're committing right opportunism. So it's a balancing act to ensure that we have a correct line. To viewers, I highly recommend a little book by Scott Harrison, Bay Area, and all these weird noises. Anyways, Scott Harrison, he wrote a book called The Mass Line of the American Revolutionary Movement. He's a former RCP cadre, and it's really, really good. Um, so, and he goes on to say that we also understand that while DSA may or may not have the potential to become the Workers' Party, it should help to lay the groundwork for it. Like, that's part of why I joined, because, like it or not, DSA is still the largest gathering of leftists in this country, and it's not just people who uh, people who want free health care, or people who are burning unto death. Like there's actual, real, principled, practicing communists and socialists in this
Mhm.
organization. So it does not behoove anybody who considers themselves a Maoist, a Marxist, Leninist, or what have you, to stand aloof from where the majority of your comrades are. Like I've met more comrades in my 3 or 4 months as a DSA member than I did in pretty much all of my 20s hanging around on the lunatic fringe of the lunatic Maoist left.
Came from different directions. I was just a lib before I came here. I was a lib when I joined DSA. I needed to be in DSA to struggle with comrades to get my politics straight.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
but
like one thing that I would advise, like all of these Maoist kids just hanging out on Twitter and sharing stuff from India and Peru and the Philippines. International solidarity is good, but you actually have to link up with other comrades. Like you can't just sit and read a book by yourself. Like start a study group, or better yet, every DSA caucus has study groups for the most part.
mhm.
Mug does study groups. You guys do Red Start. Like
Yeah. We
there's
have a
some.
red start tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'm going to be there unless
Awesome.
unless I'm asleep. Um,
Yeah.
but like you have to be, like, we are communists. Commune means to come together. You
Mhm.
cannot be a communist by yourself, and it doesn't matter how many books you sit and read in your room or in your dorm room by yourself. You're not going to be a communist until you practice, until
Mhm.
you actually get out there and start engaging in class struggle. And the organization that objectively is leading a lot of the class struggle in the United States, like we're integrated with unions,
Mhm.
tenant organizing, we've got EHOC, a lot of grassroots union activity, even not just like entryism into UAW or stuff like that, like actual unions where there were never unions before. A lot of that work is being led by people who are in DSA.
Mhm.
A party is not a ballot line. The idea that the creation of a leftist ballot line sooner or later represents the creation of independent class power is fundamentally idealist. We will not build class power by simply creating a red option for voters to select. Furthermore, debates about if, when, and how to form a new ballot line put the cart before the horse. Only a powerful, independent, and disciplined, aka Marxist, working class organization will be able to successfully launch a third ballot line that would not become immediately irrelevant. So this is sort of a dig at like these various left groups or even
Mhm.
progressive groups that think that, okay, we just got to get on the ballot. We have to focus on getting on the ballot, and like nobody's going to vote for you if they don't know who you are. All most Americans know is R or D.
Yeah.
So they just see you
And
as
it's
like,
true that most Americans only know R&D. They also hate R&D, but that isn't actually enough to push them off those lines. Like
yeah,
that's a weird contradiction that we can only solve by just organizing people into various things, whether it's a workers union or a tenant union or an organization that's standalone or some other thing. That's it. That's the only way we're doing it. And we're not gonna give you there's no branding that's going to win this for us. The only thing that works is organizing.
exactly. We believe in the centrality of working class organizing. Struggle and class consciousness condition us for political and economic power. No other class in society, with its unique position at the point of production, has the power and ability to strike, stopping services in production and restarting these services under its own initiative. For example, in my hometown, St. Louis, um, in 1877, like there was a general strike, like the whole city shut down.
Mhm.
And the working class, and like this was unique because this was at the tail end of Reconstruction, right? Black people and white people did not necessarily get along, especially among the working class. But you had like black dudes who worked on the levees uniting with white skilled labor, mostly German and Irish, and they were marching side by side. That's what pissed the bourgeoisie off so much.
Mhm.
And this was right after the Paris Commune, too. Like, we literally had a St. Louis commune that ran the city for like 2 days until it was suppressed by the army. So
Wild.
the ability to strike and the ability to restart these services under its own initiative for our class. Like during the St. Louis Commune, nobody went hungry because the bakers took it upon themselves to bake bread for the people. Like butchers still worked, but it was for the people. It wasn't for the rich or the work or the ruling class. So we can make a new world. We've seen glimpses of it, no
Hmm.
matter how short in the past. But to make sure it sticks, we have to be disciplined and we have to be organized because our enemies are organized. Like
Hmm.
you look at these look at all of the various organizations that the ruling class has. They have the Kiwanis Club. They have chambers of commerce. They have the U.S. Army. They have the police. They have all sorts of reactionary militias. They have street fascists. They have the
Yeah,
mafia.
the stock
They
market.
yeah
I mean,
shit.
they have the stock market. They have the U.S. Intelligence services.
Yep.
They have the vast majority of elected officials.
Yeah. We are
Yeah.
we are scientific socialists. We utilize the frameworks of dialectical and historical materialism and are methodical in our practice because like Marxism isn't just like a list of boxes that you check off. Okay, do I think that Mao good? Yes. Landlord bad? Yes. Like that's not scientific. That's dogmatic. That's religious.
Hmm.
So to understand Marxism, Leninism, Maoism, or just Marxism, whatever you call yourself, to understand our ideology as a science, it means that we have to understand that it can be applied to everything, basically. It could be
Hmm.
applied to, like, I have one comrade who used Mao's theory of contradiction to break up fights between his kids. Like, you can use,
Wow,
yeah,
that's dedication.
yeah, very good enough. Very
I
good
only have
Maoist.
one kid, so I could avoid too many contradictions in my house.
Yes. You resolve the contradiction of fighting
I stopped at
by
one.
yeah, by removing a factor that could lead to an antagonistic contradiction.
That's right.
So our work is necessarily experimental against science and sensitive to current conditions. So we must make decisions about how and where we fight based on what we think is the most effective way to achieve our goals. It is also important that we be willing to change when a strategy fails or ceases to be effective. So you all have a pretty decent grasp of the mass line.
Yeah, and we're not afraid of failing, and we're not afraid of trying things, and we're not. I mean, I think that there is a sort of contemporary US left tendency to be either like a hardline doomer or like pretend that everything is so great and everything you did was a massive win.
Yeah.
Um and there is something in between those two. There's a secret third thing, and that is scientific socialism, and that's just you know what did we learn? What did we get? What did we gain? What did we lose? Did it work? Should we do it again? Should we do something else? How do we fix it? Like really just looking at it with those hard questions. It doesn't make I think it's because partly because we're like so steeped um in really sort of liberal idealist kind of frameworks of how we analyze things that happen. Like, was it good? Was it bad? Like things aren't good or bad. That's not how it works.
Hmm.
Uh,
So, and then finally, we must always operate both democratically and collectively. So, us hardliners would call this democratic centralism. Collective deliberation and action is at the heart of the working class democracy we wish to build and is essential to our organizing. Leadership and designation must be mechanisms for execution of the will of the rank and file, be they in a trade union or in a socialist organization. We reject action for action's sake. We are organizers first and foremost, and the actions we take and the tactics we employ must always be strategic in revealing the class struggle in our daily lives and building our capacity to fight. So basically, like what a lot of hard left groups do is they are heavy on the collectivism and really, really light on the democracy. Like it's
mhm.
basically just a group of people that call themselves a central committee that have basically unchallenged authority. They could do like if they order you to go and punch this guy in the face, you go and punch this guy in the
Do
face.
it.
Yeah, like that's how the Red Guards operated. There was no
Yeah.
democracy. You were not allowed to like if you like in many of these groups, if you tried to if you try to engage in a democratic matter, or if you try to raise a stink about something that the people higher up have done, you get called a wrecker, and
Hmm.
you get driven out of the organization. That's not a very democratic way to operate. So I really like how y'all how you all avoid bureaucratic centralism, like basically like that old style 1950s Soviet style stuff. Like, comrade, you must do exactly as I say, otherwise you go to gulag. Like that's not
In
like
fairness, Red Star all does have Russian accents, so I just fake a good American one now and again.
uh,
Things like
but
this.
yeah, but like that's not like that's already the stereotype of how communists are. So
Of course.
why would you live up to the stereotype? Like why would you live up to the stereotype of bureaucratic centralism? Like people think that socialism is where everybody makes the same amount of money. Everybody has to wear the same amount of clothes, the same type of clothes. Everybody is paid the same no matter what type of work they do. Like that's not socialism. So under no circumstance has that system ever existed in any country that has called itself socialist. Well, I was gonna say Pol Pot, but that was something radically different. He was a weirdo. But
Yeah.
so I really like you all's points of unity. Like probably like I've read and written many points of unity in my day on the left, and these are probably the most concise, but they also pack a punch. Like
Well,
um
I'm glad you enjoy.
yeah. Um so you also do a monthly newsletter. Um from November of this year. This was actually released today. You talk about your ongoing Palestine response. You talk about the BDS working group and its decision to disaffiliate from DSA. And
Mhm.
your organization, your caucus, actually considers that unfortunate because at a time when momentum to build and cement a strong anti Zionist internationalism has never been stronger, we believe that cutting ties and distancing Palestinian organizing from the largest socialist organization in the U.S. is a huge missed opportunity. So you also go on to mention that you will continue working with the Palestine Solidarity Working Group members who remain in DSA and hope to cultivate a political environment within New York that can attract and retain anti-Zionist organizers. So I really like that. Like you're not lambasting them. Like you realize that the that this group um, felt a certain type of way. Like they had legitimate reason
Absolutely.
to choose to disaffiliate organizationally. But you mentioned that you will still maintain ties with the comrades who are in the working group who remain in DSA, and you point us towards the future. You hope to cultivate a political environment within New York that can attract and maintain principled anti-Zionist relationships. Um,
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is like I think we used the word unfortunate several times. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks how it all went down. It sucks that the BDS working group was treated poorly by former leadership. It also sucks that you know that sort of trauma bonded, I think, a lot of their leadership into a place where they were not able to work with new leadership to sort of build a better pathway forward, and I think they feel harmed, and I don't think that harm is coming out of nowhere. And yeah, I just hope we can figure out a better pathway forward that uh that
oh yeah.
makes one big left, right? Like we want to work together. And so my understanding is that only a handful of people are actually fully leaving the org. Most of them are planning on staying in and kind of working within the new framework that convention mandated.
Hmm.
And that's great, and we look forward to working with them. Most Red Star members are either we Red Star has a strong presence on the international committee.
Mm.
I'm one of the liaisons to the international committee from the NPC. We're committed to making sure that the landing is soft for the BDS working group getting absorbed into the international committee, but also yeah. I mean, I'm a a DSA partisan, right? Like this is the org I'm fighting for. So I find it frustrating when people don't want to stay and fight, because like I stayed and fight when it got really hard. And so but I also get it. Like I get, you don't have to light yourself on fire to keep other people warm. I get that.
Mm.
So yeah, I just hope we can do better, and make this a place where people feel really empowered to do strong Palestinian liberation organizing.
Yeah, really. Like if like I really like how you didn't like brush it off. Like a lot of people, like especially in other organizations that I'm not going to name, like they're like, oh, they were trash anyway. They were liberals. They were ultra such and such. Like I really like how you point out that yeah, there was really there were some issues, like serious
Mhm.
issues. But you also mentioned that I am a partisan of the organization that I'm a member of, and yeah, it sucks. It's sad that people feel inclined to leave, but we have to continue moving forward, and we also have to work to maintain principled ties. Like we don't want this to be a dirty split where we see you in public and we fight. Like that's how Maoists split.
Yeah, what good does that do? Like who
Nothing.
benefits from
It,
that?
it
So,
drives yeah, it drives people away from the left. Nobody's going to want to join a
and
bunch of
especially at a time like now,
yeah.
so many people are looking for principled leadership here on this issue because they see how bad it is. Like they see the fucking babies. They see the parents like carrying bags of their children's remains, and
Yeah.
they need something, and somebody has to be there to be like, so I think it would be deranged to cut ties with any Palestinian
Mm,
group right now. We
no.
need to be building this sort of broad coalition, and if they don't feel safer at home organizing in DSA, then it's my job to make DSA a place that they feel safe and at home organizing in.
Hence
So
you running for co-chair.
and I am. So, and that's a tall order, making it feel safe for every, because that's the both the beauty and the pain of the big tent. Because yeah, you have to make some space for people who, I don't actually think we need to make space for Zionists
Oh
at
fuck
all.
no. Thank you.
But
Like I've
I do think, like, I think that the type of work we are, like, we do have to think about, like, people who are going to see electoral solutions to this problem versus people who are going to see mass movement, mass protest solutions to the, like, I think we do have to thread some of those needles a bit.
yeah,
um
principled unity.
yeah, so that, yeah, we have to figure out what that looks like and how to make it feel like, I don't know, feel like it's safe, and like everybody has an opening to kind of do the work that they want to do, pushing in the same direction.
Okay. I like what I hear so far. You've got my vote. This is an official. This
I
is
don't
an.
think you can vote, but if you
Oh.
whip some St. Louis people for me, that would be helpful. It's just the voters are the delegates from convention.
Oh.
Um,
Well,
so yeah, I know, I'm sorry, but
I wasn't even a member at the convention. So yeah.
yeah, dang, next convention. Um, but any delegates who are listening, I would very much appreciate your number one. And anybody, if you've got a comrade who was a delegate, give him
Yeah.
a
You
shout for me.
you may not have my vote, but you have my endorsement.
Thank you. I
So
appreciate it.
you have
It means a lot. And I will, if I win, I will be co-chair of everybody, not just delegates. So
nice. So
here to
the NPC had its first in-person meeting in Minneapolis. Good choice.
yeah.
Y'all had a karaoke session.
Oh my God, it was so fun. It
What
was
did
so
you?
stupid. There are actually videos online of us. Everybody who was still there, a couple people had to leave early to catch a flight to be back to work Monday, but it was Sunday night. And we went to the Eagles Lodge in Minneapolis, which is like the Eagles lodgiest of all Eagles lodges that ever Eagles lodged. Um, and it's like janky karaoke, like they're just like pulling shit up on a computer. It's like they don't have a book, they're like, yeah, just come up with what you want to sing. But we sang a lot, and they really liked us, and the bartender gave us jello shots for free, which was so nice. And we made friends with all these people. Shout out to Christina, who works at the Omni in Minneapolis. When you're ready to unionize, come find us. But yeah, it was really fun. But there is, in fact, video of us singing 9 to 5. All of
Oh,
us. Yeah,
that's fun.
just absolutely tanked.
Yeah. Of course, I'm going to have to reject the revisionist NPC because you all did not immediately seize control of Minneapolis St. Paul. But I'm
We
joking. I'm
also,
joking.
the Red Stars, the four of us who were there were three of us NPC members, and then we had a fourth comrade who came to be our support person for the weekend, and we did Goodbye Earl by the Chicks, FKA, the Dixie Chicks.
Yeah.
Come on, it ruled. It was so good. You wish you'd seen it. You wish you'd been singing Dixie Chicks with us.
Well, I am a gay man, so yes, I do wish
See?
I was.
Yeah.
I do wish I was singing Dixie Chicks with my
It
comrades.
wasn't even the only Dixie Chicks of the night because Comrade Ashik picked the Dixie Chicks version of Landslide for his solo number.
I've
So,
been born
so it was
changes, built my life around you.
that's it. So when we do a meeting in St. Louis, we'll make sure you come and sing Dixie Chicks with us. I'm sorry,
Okay.
the Chicks.
Yeah, I'm already enough of a meme. Let's just become
That's
more
right.
of a
Let's
meme.
do it. We can
Let's
do
do
it.
it.
We'll do
So
Cowboy Take Me Away. You and me.
okay,
Do it. Okay.
pho spiced apple butter. What is that?
So it's become a thing. When we did our first newsletter, we were joking like we need to make it more personal. It's like, oh, Megan should put a jam recipe in there because I make a lot of jam. It's like my weird little hobby.
Mm.
I live in a tiny little town in rural upstate New York, and I like going and picking fruit. And I also have grapes growing on my house, and so I have all these Catawba grapes, and I make jelly out of them. And so I put in a jam recipe in the first one. I think it was a jam recipe. Oh no, I did a fermented pickles recipe because that's the other thing. I like to culture things. So this is kind of like a running joke, right? Like Megan's cottagecore life. But the second month we did it, I was running behind. So one of our comrades from North Carolina Triangle put in a cocktail recipe, which was very fancy and sounded very good. I haven't actually consumed it. Um, but I'm back this month with Megan's recipe corner, and it is pho spiced apple butter. So I am a big fan of making my jams a little strange or a little different because I can just buy the regular ones at the grocery store, right? Like I could go to the farm stand up the street and just buy regular strawberry jelly. So I make like strawberry thyme jelly or things like that. Like I like to play with herbs. I did a watermelon lavender that was very nice, but it kind of tasted like perfume. But right now it is apple season. I live in the heart of apple country. Like half the apple varieties you've ever heard of were invented right near where I live. Um, and so I made apple butter and I wrote down the recipe and I used pho spices, which you can like go to it's a Korean grocery store that I usually go to, but they do have pan Asian groceries. And
Mm.
they have just these little packets of Vietnamese pho spice. And it's like 79 cents or 89 cents or something for a packet and use half of it for this recipe. So you just basically cook down apples for a really long time and add pho spices to them. And the house smells so good. It smells like a strange combination of apple pie and a pho restaurant. But it's so good and strongly recommended. I've got several jars of it sitting there waiting for labels right now. I think I might make another batch tomorrow. So
Nice. That is a
yeah.
very, very wholesome hobby.
It is an extremely wholesome hobby. It's I love to feed the people. What can I say?
Let's see, Maoists, we need to pick up on wholesome hobbies because our hobbies seem to be throwing bricks through people's windows and spray painting. So,
That's right. And you can get away with a lot of brick throwing if you also bring jam. It's
yeah,
like it really kind of patches over a lot of the more intense things. So you
or
should all learn
or better
jam.
yet, throw jam through people's windows.
Hey, now we're talking.
All right. So, what is a workers' party? This is a zine about the future of our organizing from Red Star San Francisco. So, this must have been like an older document.
Yeah, this
Um,
is before me. This is before my time joining, but it's very cool zine and fun. If folks like just need something to print out to distribute for lit, grab it. It's on there. Just Google
okay.
party zine.
Yeah, this is
Um,
neat. Like it's heavily inspired by the old CPUSA from like the 30s and the 20s when they were actually when they were throwing down. There was this guy whose cadre name was Jay Peters, and it basically talks about how to organize. It's called the Communist Party: A Manual of on Organization, and like it talks about building shop units, and also organizing agricultural workers. This is something that's really near and dear to my heart because like my entire family before we came up here in the 40s leading up to the 60s is when my grandma got here, but like we were basically rural proletarians and peasants, sharecroppers. So and when you read if you read Hammer and Hoe, it's a really really good book.
oh yeah.
um it talks about like how the CPUSA was extremely important, not just in the industrial capital of the South, Birmingham, aka the Pittsburgh of the South, but
Hmm.
also you had like they were very active in organizing sharecroppers, and like
Hmm.
there were actually like shootouts between the cops and the Klan and CPUSA organized sharecroppers. So I would probably say before the '60s, the '20s and the '30s were definitely the heyday of the communist movement in the United States. Like you actually had like right now, communism is seen as being like a fringe thing, but like back then, if you got evicted from your house, you could go down to the local CPUSA office and they would move your stuff back in and they would beat the shit out of the landlord and the cops if they came trying to fuck with you. So we need to get back to that.
Yeah.
Um,
Just a quick plug. If you go on whatever your podcast app of choice is, Red Star's educational program, which is called Red Start, like Head Start, but Red Start, right? We did one, I led one on William Z. Foster's Organizing Methods in the Steel Industry. And we've
good
got
one.
recordings, both me reading the pamphlet and then also the Red Start we did on it. So some background. And yeah, definitely strong recommend. It is a very short read. If you've never read it, it is like and especially if you've never organized before, like if you're a kind of theory communist and you're trying to figure out how to organize, well, go read Willie Z, because he was he really knew his theory, but he also really believed that communists have to be organizers, and there is much to be learned.
Yeah, I got him pulled up. So yeah, a lot of documents. Y'all have read Karl Marx's Wage, Labor, and Capital.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Left Wing Communism and Infantile Disorder.
Of course.
Socialism, Utopian and Scientific. Rosa Luxemburg, Reform or Revolution. Mao, On Practice and on Contradiction. You've got two by Mao. Two more
Mm-hmm.
essays on philosophy. You got Fred Hampton, Power Anywhere Where There's People. You got Vlad Lenin, State and Revolution, and Imperialism, the Highest Stage of Capitalism. So a very, very good like you said, it's a red start. It's basically like getting people who like yourself. You said you're a liberal before you
Oh
actually
yeah.
started your collective study. And
Mm-hmm.
like these are things that you could recommend. Like you wouldn't hand a baby communist Bettelheim or Althusser or any or well, actually I would give a baby communist William Hinton. But like you wouldn't hand them these huge books or books that are written in like philosophical type language because all they're going to do, they're going to read a couple pages of that stuff and put it down. Whereas if you read Fred
Yeah.
Hampton,
And I think a lot of people like think that the way to start is to read Capital, which is like
uh
it's fucking deranged. Like, what a terrible way to start. Like,
uh
read Labor in Capital. It's a pamphlet. It was written for workers. You can read it. It's super easy. And
yeah.
it explains all the same stuff, and you don't have to read all the shit about linen coats. Like, just start there.
And you have discussion questions at the end. For example, I'm looking at the Fred Hampton one now, like discussion questions. This I actually did this. If you talk to Nico from Mug, he used to be in a group called FAM, and I actually helped him with a it was a like intensives. I basically helped them with the Marxism Leninism hours in basic course a couple years back. But like this is exactly how I set up mine. Like they'd read an excerpt and then I'd have discussion questions. These are really good discussion questions. For example, you got two. In what ways does Hampton's speech allude to Mao's writings and theories and to Lenin's? So, how did Hampton read Lenin, and Um, how did Hampton apply Mao and Lenin to the conditions of inner city Chicago in 1969? So this is based. I like this.
Yeah. And we don't only read things that we really like. Like, we've read things that we have like hard critiques of. Um, and so, yeah, it's because there's still stuff to be gained.
Yeah, I see very very diverse selections. I see Caliban and the Witch.
Which
Um
we decided we hate.
I mean, yeah, it has its point. It has its
Yeah, I mean,
moments.
it's sort of, once you realize that she became a really turfy recently, kind
Yeah.
of go back and read it and you're like, oh yeah, that's there. Like, there's this
Oof.
seed there. Like,
Oof.
she's not, there are things about primitive accumulation that I think she got at that hadn't quite been gotten at before, but there's some real problem stuff buried in there. So
I
yeah.
see. I haven't read her for a while. I remember
I know. I actually read her. She was one of the early like hard pieces of theory that I read, and I like
mhm.
plowed. That book took me like 3 months, and it was really hard, and I liked it because I think I was felt accomplished more than
I
I
mean,
understood it.
like that's the thing. Like a lot of people have similar critiques of Sakai, not of Sakai being a turf because I don't think Sakai is a turf, but like I mean the history, like the history is good. Like the book talks about a lot of shit that I otherwise would not have known. Like I
Mhm.
thought that like witch trials and stuff. Like I thought that was just like a bunch of assholes just going around harassing folks. But like no, like there was actual like real reasons for that. They wanted to suppress women because like women function basically as a sort of class.
Mhm.
So the history is good, but like same thing with Sakai. Like a lot of people come to these stupidest conclusions based on misreadings of Sakai. Like they read Sakai, they read Settlers or they skim Settlers, and they come to the conclusion that there's no possibility for revolution in the United States. And if you actually thoroughly read Sakai and note to annotate this book and like are serious about it, you will realize that that's not what he's saying at all. What Sakai is saying in Settlers is that he's basically explaining why exactly there hasn't been a white-led communist movement worth a damn in the United States. And a lot of people get in their feelings because of that.
Yeah. One that I think is worth that you're probably less likely to have read than a lot of others is this RP Dutt one, Fascism and Social Revolution. Um, he's a really interesting guy. He was the leader of this Communist Party of Great Britain in the, I mean, I think like the 20s through the 50s or something. But he wrote about it's called Fascism and Social Revolution. He talks a lot about the social democratic parties that were arising in Europe just before World War II. And it is truly like spine tinglingly like the way he's talking about like what this is going to lead to is genocide, and you're like holy shit, he wrote this like 2 years before the genocide started. It's
Oofta.
wild. And really worth reading, and really it clarified some things for me about my orientation toward sort of Scandinavian style social democracy, kind of reformist soc dem stuff.
I
So
see. I see where a
worth
lot of
reading.
people. I see where a lot of people have marked up the Google Doc that y'all made.
Yeah, we got into that one, and like half the markups are just people being like, "Holy shit! We're like 2 years from now. This is gonna, it's
I'm
pretty
just
wild."
I'm just going around making corrections to all of the mistypings here.
I think a lot of it, that was one of those things where you like pull it from a PDF to a Word document, and it like doesn't pick them all correctly because it was scanning the old print.
Yeah, plus it's
Uh,
British spelling.
it's British, right? So it's labor with an OU, and yeah.
Yeah. But
But
yeah,
yeah.
you all got some good stuff. So the general state of DSA, would you be optimistic well, that was a stupid question on my part. Of course you're optimistic. You're running to help lead it. Uh,
I am, though. I think I don't think that's necessary. I think somebody could be pessimistic and be in my position, but I am very optimistic about DSA. I think we've really uh yeah, I think we're coalescing in a way that we have not in a long time, and around something um that really deserves a strong socialist response, and I think we're doing it. I think we're struggling through it a little bit, and that's okay because that's what we do. We
yeah.
struggle and we learn and we correct and we try and we iterate and so on. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But
I am optimistic.
yeah, I'm really excited about your run, not just your run, but the entire Red Star slate because from what I've read and from what you've told me, like you all are in it. Granted, I can't vote. I've been disenfranchised. I've been
You
disenf-
have robbed you of the opportunity.
I've been disenfranchised, but you definitely have my endorsement. And I'm certain that the left wing in DSA will definitely unite around you guys because like y'all are it.
I hope so, and I hope that we are able to represent. The thing about the co-chairs is there was only two of them, and there's a lot of different tendencies sort of in the big tent, and so
Mhm.
I hope that I am able to adequately and respectfully represent a broad swath, really all of DSA. I mean, if you're the co-chair, you're everybody's co-chair.
Mm.
But yeah, really kind of make sure that I'm doing proud the tendencies that have put me here in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tomorrow night, Wednesday, November 15th, from 6 to 8 p.m. Well, I have a new follower that has called themselves 1-800 Crime Stoppers.
I think I might know them. I
Well,
think I might know that.
they need to choose
I think it's a joke.
they
It's
need
a
to
it's a
they need to choose a better name.
I,
Uh
I think I think it's a joke name.
that's a way to get you banned. Anyways, tomorrow night, Red Start. It's going to be Zionist Colonialism in Palestine by Fayez Sayegh. That's tomorrow, November 15th, from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific time, 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern time. Um, I'm going to be there if I don't get bogged down in playing Skyrim or some other unproductive activity. Um, Megan, do you have any questions for me, or do you have any last plugs, or does anybody in
Yeah,
chat?
I do have a question for you. I'm just sort of curious as a DSA leader, how it has been coming into DSA for you. What have you felt like you've been onboarded well? Do you feel like you're being plugged into work well? Like what are you seeing as a person who's kind of coming in with fresh eyes?
Yeah, at least in my local branch, like there's a lot of opportunities. Like we're starting up a Green New Deal commission. Like I generally can't make a lot of this stuff because I work odd
Mhm.
hours on odd days. But
Sure.
yeah, I definitely don't think there's any like gap in onboarding. And plus I'm terminally online. Plus I'm a relatively big Twitter account, so like people just sliding in. Oh yeah, this is what's going on with so and so. This is what's going on with so and so. So I got half of my onboarding from Twitter.
Of
Um,
course.
but other than that, yeah, I think I've received a pretty warm welcome, and yeah,
Well,
pretty
I'm
good
glad you're
bunch of
here.
folks.
I think it's great. I think DSA getting bigger and more inclusive of more tendencies, and you know that it's important to kind of keep growing, keep struggling, keep figuring out what's next, keep the different ideas flowing. Let 100 DSA tendencies bloom.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, happy to be here. And
Good. I'm so glad.
I think a few people, like maybe more than a few people, have actually followed me in. So we might have like
Awesome.
a pretty substantial chunk of Maoists in. Because
Great.
like a lot of people felt like me. Like the Maoist movement it's a fucking joke. Like it has as a stated goal basically the same thing that you all have as your stated goal, the formation of a workers' party. But we can't keep from fucking splitting every 5 months. And like eventually, like people get tired of that stuff. Like, what's the point? What's the deal? We have no real ties to the masses. So you know what? Fuck it. DSA is doing the thing. Let's join DSA.
That's right. And it's like if you really want to represent the working class, you have to figure out how to convince people to your position. And it's like tutorial mode to do it amongst a bunch of people who are already leftist, right?
Yeah.
Like if you can't like struggle within DSA, I don't know that you're cut out for it, buddy. So yeah, join DSA, like convince people. That's what we should all be doing. We should all be, making our politics clear and trying to get other people to believe them. And then where that doesn't work, figuring out points of unity and moving forward.
Yeah. So does anybody in chat have a question for Comrade Megan while she's here? You brought a little brigade with you, Megan. Like
Did I can't see chat, so you have to tell me what they're saying.
I think half these people are Red Star.
I'm sure they're being perfectly well behaved. It's like
Apparently you make very, very good. Yeah, if this was Mug, they would be clowning. I went on some of their I went on one of their calls last night and it was like it was all over the place. I love them, but they're like fuck it, we ball.
I love Mug. Mug is a great vibes caucus. I'm very happy to be in tight coalition with them, both on the NPC and just more broadly in DSA.
Yeah, they're a good group of people. Ikra asks, what does Megan feel about the liberation of Aztlan?
What? I don't know what that means. I'm so sorry.
Aslan is a Chicano nationalist movement. Like it's basically
Okay.
along the lines of New Africa, but
Uh-huh.
it's basically on the historical territory. It's spelled Aztlan.
Okay, I've seen that. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's basically like around the lines that America stole land. I actually had a guy on talking about this last week. Comrade Rick from Buffalo, decolonized Buffalo, and he's an opponent of Aslan because he considers Mexico a settler colonial state that also stole land from indigenous people. So like, there's apparently a debate because like I didn't know much about it either. Um, but
That's interesting. I
yeah,
will look more into it, certainly. I'm writing this down. And but I cannot guarantee that I will have a strong opinion on it one way or the other anytime soon. I'm still, I a lot of decolonial movements, it's they're both simultaneously totally uncomplicated. Like land back, yeah, fucking right. Um, but also like, okay, well, how does that work? What does it look like? What is this logistics? So sometimes it's easy to be like spiritually and emotionally in support of a thing. Um,
yeah,
and not exactly know what it looks like, but that doesn't mean that I don't think we should do it. We just got to figure it out. And I think that's we've got a lot of tasks ahead of us. Many. But
yes.
yeah, as far as Aztlan goes, definitely a no investigation, no right to speak moment for me here.
Okay, I respect that. Megan, who killed John F. Kennedy? I think that
The
was a
CIA, obviously. I mean, it was so obviously the CIA. Completely the CIA. That or his head just did that.
I think
Those
the
are
honestly,
the
I think it
two.
was I think the mob did it because
I mean, I think the CIA was and is heavily and closely tied to organized crime. I
oh
think
yeah,
those are both reactionary movements that are there's a reason that we fucking keep the embargo on Cuba, and it's not because we actually think Cuba's going to accidentally spread communism to the US. It's because the CIA and the mob want us to keep the embargo on
yeah.
Cuba.
Except the mob is basically a bunch of old men right now.
So is the
But
CIA.
yeah, a bunch of old men that went to Harvard. Oh, serious question from 1800 Crime Stoppers.
Nice.
Any caucuses that Megan would recommend BRG to check out?
Oh, I mean, as far as I can tell, it looks like BRG's been checking out lots of caucuses, and I think that is very cool. I think in general, it is best to come into DSA and like just do some organizing before you jump all the way into caucus stuff. Um, just because I think, yeah, I think you have to do some mass work in order to know what mass work needs to look like for you. And caucuses are really sort of analyzing how we're going to approach mass work, I think. So yeah, we have to engage in it a bit. And engage with it within our milieu, right? So I'd say like organize for 6 months, then look at caucuses. But then once you are, I think probably the usual suspects. I think you should look at Mug, you should look at Red Star. You might look at, I mean, I think you should probably look at most of them. Some of them are going to be an obvious non-fit, but it's worth sort of knowing why that is,
I'm
I
joining
think.
North Star.
You're joining North Star. I've been told they are a broad ideological caucus that
I'm
has,
not,
they
I'm
keep
joking.
telling
I'm
me they have
joking.
Maoists in
I'm
them.
not. I'm
They're like, we
joking.
got Maoists. I'm like,
I'm
what?
joking.
You
I have no
have,
intention. I have no intention to join North Star.
it's so funny though that they keep saying they have Maoists. I'm like,
No,
okay.
they might have.
Okay.
No, no, no.
Like in the like very 1970s academic Maoist vein, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, William Hinton's ghost is a member. Um, we need to ask where Bernie Sanders was on November 22nd, 1963. Probably getting arrested.
Probably.
All right, let's see. Any other serious questions? My chat attracts quite a few trolls, as you can see.
Nice. Congrats.
Um, but Granite Tones asks. My actual question is: Can we look forward to organize? What can we look forward to on organizing around solidarity with Palestine?
Mm. Yeah, so a lot. And that's it's a bit of an open question right now. Clearly we are going to need to start escalating tactics a bit. I think that you're probably going to see us pushing something like I suspect we're going to start sort of tracking the whereabouts of you know, Biden, Blinken, et cetera, and encourage people to go scream at them and wave signs and make sure they know that that we charge them with genocide. Um, I think there will likely be actions trying to, the block the boat action type things. I think we can do that on different scales. Block trucks going to the Raytheon factory or whatever. I think you will see more of that, which will be a bit of a departure for DSA. Like that we've not done a lot of concerted direct action. But that's where
Honestly
we're
though,
at.
Meg, like I just speaking as somebody that was heavily radicalized and joined the organized left as a result of Ferguson,
Mm-hmm.
like that type of stuff will attract a shitload of people. Like if we actually start um, co-coordinating and planning and taking part in and letting it be known that we support direct actions, like we will end up with a shitload of like younger militants. Because
Mm-hmm.
like the thing is like phone banking, block the vote, that type of stuff, like a lot of younger people, like these people that are coming out to protest for the very first time, they consider that stuff boring. They don't want to they don't want to
Sure.
play on the phone. They don't want to play on the fucking phone all
Absolutely.
day. They
Yep.
don't. Um, I would definitely be down to see us like take a more strategic tack towards direct actions because like if you look at Palestine action, all of that stuff, like they're throwing down. And
Yep.
if we want to shake the notion that we're basically just a bunch of hipster fogies that come out every 4 years to tell you to vote for Bernie or whoever the progressive
Mhm.
flavor of the month is, like if we want to shake that, we definitely need to start like being more involved in direct actions.
Mhm. And it's hard. That's a hard pivot for us. That's something that we're going to have to figure out what that looks like, how it works. Like a lot of people don't have any experience with it. We're going to have to make some coalitions that are going to be uncomfortable for some of the maybe more social democratic members of our org, because which I get why they don't want to do that. They don't want to do it for the same reason that I don't want us to be in coalition with, you know various kind of pseudo left NGOs.
Mm.
I get it. Sometimes that's what the moment calls for, and yeah, we're gonna have to figure it out. We're gonna have to mend some bridges with some Palestinian orgs. And I really, honestly, I look forward to doing that. I look forward to kind of digging in and figuring out, like, okay, how can we, because we want to find ways to be in support. And so
Mm.
yeah, there's work. And
Yeah.
a lot of this is going to have to come upward from the membership. Like
Hmm.
I don't, if people are waiting for the NPC to tell them to go, block the doors to the Raytheon factory, I worry that you will wait a long time. I think that what would I yeah, I mean, get together with your comrades and like figure out what you want to do. And we can kind of work together across the org. I'm hoping to kind of come up with um some sort of mechanism for chapters to talk to each other about what they're doing a little bit, to kind of share ideas, share that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's like a lot of infrastructure doesn't exist for this. So we're building, what is it? Building the plane as we fly it. That's the situation we're in. But yeah, that's what escalation looks like right now. And it has to. And I'm unfortunately think we're in this for a much longer time than we would want to be. I would like there to be a ceasefire immediately and for Palestine to be liberated immediately. And unfortunately, I'm not sure that that is on the immediate docket. So we're going to be fighting this fight for a bit.
All right. So I guess
We're going to win.
we
And
are.
Palestine will be free from the river to the sea.
It will. And you are now officially a terrorist supporter.
That's right. So
Um,
I've been.
so couple more questions. So Meg, what do you think of Notre Dole and Anakbaya?
um, I don't know a ton. I did I did go to a webinar that was, I don't remember if it was hosted by or co-hosted by, but featuring the Noted Dull folks, and it was really interesting. I learned a ton. I had not, I mean, that's the sort of like anti-North Korean propaganda is maybe like the strongest one we get, right? Like it's so wild how this was just getting talked about on Twitter today. Like some lady was like, "Oh, what? Now we're calling the Korean War bad?" And it's like, yeah, turns out we did a genocide, and I didn't know it until like 3 years ago. Yeah, it's bad. So figuring out ways to kind of reconcile our own history, but then also work to support comrades who are working on reconciliation over there. Yeah, it's a really it's a movement that I'm glad to see really kind of uh, catching. What's the word? It's getting sticky, right? It's like really making waves. It's catching people's attention in a way that I think is really exciting. Uh, but yeah, I wish I knew a solution to make the US stop doing embargoes on fucking everybody, including people we've tormented for God knows how long.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that there are activists telling their story as people from the region, which does seem to somehow yeah, I mean you have to yeah, you have to find understanding and I'm glad that they're out there doing that work for sure.
Yeah, I like Notre Dole and Anik Bayan. Comrades who comrades who saw my stream the other night, they noticed that I was wearing an Anik Bayan shirt. I actually had some comrades that came from they were from Seattle, Anik Bayan, and they were coming through St. Louis, and we took them around town a little bit, got them emos. They actually got me addicted to Jarritos. Like I literally got a full
Oh,
family size bottle of Jarritos. I didn't.
which
I
flavor?
like uh fruit punch, and I
Mm,
drank it.
I like pineapple.
I drank it all in like 5 minutes, and they were like, "BRG, you weren't supposed to do that. You're gonna get diabetes." I'm like, "Well, at least I'll die
You
happy."
for sure are. That shit has like 3 times as much sugar as Sprite.
Yeah, like I love I love Mexican soda. Like nobody makes
Mhm.
soda like that up here.
So good.
It's all high fructose corn syrup trash. But like,
Terrible.
yeah, Mexico uses real sugar.
That's right.
Dia happy beaties, exactly. So yeah, Arak Bayan and Nodut Dole are good people. Um, and Z Swaffle, not Z Swaffles, Ikra asks about a United DSA Caucus conference. But Z Swaffles correctly points out that DSA does not formally recognize caucuses. So it would need to be done informally. I mean, like, doesn't this stuff already happen? Like, caucuses talk to each other, individual members of caucuses talk to each other all the time, yeah?
Totally. And I think most caucuses that have representation on national bodies have like, group chats with the people from a couple different caucuses. And yeah, we've Red Star has had formal meetings with other caucuses.
Mm-hmm.
And encourages other caucuses to do the same with each other. We think it's good for caucuses to exist. We're into it. We think it's a good way to clarify political thought, but also to like share work in ways that are smart. It's when somebody like if I need to, I don't say I want to like write a resolution or something.
Mm-hmm.
I can, because I know the politics and share the politics of the people in my caucus, I can be like, can somebody write a draft for me? Like that's a thing that I can do. And it like lowers my load of actually having to do every single admin task myself because I can trust that somebody else will, come up with a framework that I can, I'll probably tweak it and make it my own. But having that sort of support structure. Can somebody help me with like write a blog post? Can somebody help me write an argument for something?
Yeah.
Can
I
somebody
can,
just like research something and tell me like, we've got to vote on an endorsement for somebody. Like, can somebody just get me some background and write me a brief? So having caucuses to do that kind of thing is really great. And also, I can also send somebody from my caucus to meet with somebody from another caucus and they can make some decisions because we share politics, and
yeah.
and can trust each other to do that stuff. It really just expands capacity in a huge way.
Yeah, like I see a lot of overlap, and I see a lot of collaboration between you guys and Mug. It's
Mhm,
like, yeah, like
totally.
you all released a joint statement on the Palestinian uprising.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
And
mean,
we
it's
don't agree on everything, and that's fine. Like it's I think it's important also to model like, yeah, we don't agree on this. That's fine. Like it's actually okay. Like we're still comrades,
yeah,
we're still in coalition. We do not have to have 100% alignment on everything.
yeah.
If we did be in the same caucus, it's fine not to be.
I mean, like shit. The Bolsheviks had caucuses. They had
Uh-huh.
well, I don't think they called them caucuses. They called them factions. But
Yes.
like, and that's a sign of a healthy party life. I mean, DSA isn't a party, but that's a sign of a healthy party life.
I think so.
Like when you have this, what Martin Luther King would call strangulating totalitarianism, there is no room for discussion. There's no room for debate. Like that's not healthy. And that
Mhm.
makes all that's going to do is make people leave, and you're going to end up basically a withered husk, unable to do anything. I think part of the reason why DSA has tens of thousands of members is because it allows people to, within guidelines, of course, we're not going to allow neo Nazis or Zionists or all other sorts of nasty people in, but within the confines of the left, people who want a better world, people who want a classless, stateless, moneyless society, at the end of the day, like you have to allow people to debate. You have to allow people to disagree and remain comrades at the end of the day. That's what was really refreshing for me because, like in the Maoist movement, if you can even call it that, if you disagree with somebody over the slightest little thing, you get a 25-page polemic dumped on your head. You get treated like shit for months, and maybe you might even get expelled. So, like, that's not healthy. That generates distrust. That generates fear that makes people not want to speak out, and that leads to anemic and eventually moribund organizations. So I really
Yeah.
like how DSA carries this process out. Like I've seen people that are in DSA like disagree bitterly, sometimes even say pretty nasty things to each other. Not as nasty as stuff that we Maoists say to each other or do to each other, but some pretty grody shit. But at the end of the day, we're still in the trenches together. So I like that.
And it's a good reminder every once in a while. Some Usually it's like Richie Torres or somebody like some like terrible kind of leftish lib does something, and we all just like in unison just start screaming at them, and it's like, oh right, yeah, no. We're all more or less coming from the same place. It's okay. Like it actually helps me. The existence of Richie Torres helps me feel good
Yeah.
about DSA because we can all yell at him in unison.
I'm waiting for
Um,
him. I'm waiting for him to turn up in Gaza as one of the casualties.
oh my god.
Like I'm
I'm
waiting.
waiting. I'm surprised he hasn't done photo ops in Israel yet. There's a whole big old cluster of New York City council and borough presidents and stuff going. I just saw
Yeah, Mitt
on
Romney.
Twitter.
There are like 5 senators over there on the 7th. Like I think Mitt Romney basically had to be hustled into a fucking bomb
Oh, I
shelter.
saw that picture. Yeah, they're like, and it's like, yeah, okay, great.
Well, that's
That's
why you don't visit a fucking active combat zones that
right. Like,
are.
what are you trying to prove?
Uh,
Truly,
like I think he got a and Romney. He was Vietnam era. Like he got a student deferment, so I guess he's trying to get some of the action he missed in Vietnam. I don't
finally,
know.
that's right.
So
But yeah, so just to wrap up on caucuses, this democracy commission, I suspect one of the things they'll tackle is whether or not we should formalize caucus structures. I know that Fern, who comes, he's a Brazilian, so he's coming out of Brazilian left organizing, and both PT and PASOL have formalized caucus structures, like ways that you have to like register your caucus, you have to, and I think Fern has some critiques of how that looks in those parties,
mhm.
but it's definitely like that's one of the things that is going to be discussed. Like, how does that work? How does that look? And how do you make sure that people who don't want to be in a caucus can still be represented? Because I think that's important too. Not everybody has time or capacity to do both organizing work and caucus work as like a separate kind of thing. It's a definitely a puzzle worth puzzling over.
Mhm. But So I don't see any other questions. So is there anything that you want to wrap up with?
I don't think so. Just if you're not in DSA, I really encourage you. I'm not even going to tell you you have to go join DSA right now. Most DSA events at your local level are going to be open to the public. Go see one. Go to a DSA meeting, see what it's like, see how it feels. And then join DSA because because I bet you're going to like it. Um
I'm going to tell you that you have to join DSA. If you don't join DSA, I'm going to quote, tweet, and mock you and make you the laughing stock of the internet.
See, this is the dialectic, folks. They're the two genders. Go to a meeting first, then join DSA, and or join DSA, or you will be the laughing stock of the entire internet. The other thing is that if you are a delegate to national convention, voting, I believe, is next week. I think it opens like the 21st or 22nd. I should know this, but I don't. But yeah, I would really, be very honored by a first place ranking. And if you have questions for me, I am on Twitter at Meghan Romer. You can email me, Meghan, just Megan, at dsacommittees.org. I'm happy to answer questions in email. Yeah, find me. I definitely am very, very open to talking to members and want to answer your questions as best I can.
So, right. Meg Romer for NPC. Wait, you're already on the NPC. Meg Romer for co-chair of the NPC. I'm still learning the lingo. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay. It's okay. It's a lot of initialisms.
Yeah, so this is her Twitter. If you have any questions, hit her up. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, Meg, for coming. That's it.